Welcome to Manga Mavericks at Movies, the show where we talk smack about movies that we were taken to see by the family.
Yup, it was,
movies we knew nothing about, we went in with no expectations, and came out saying, yeah, we probably should have looked at the reviews first.
Why don't they look at the reviews?
I don't know. To be fair, it does have a fresh rating on RT.
How fresh?
69% fresh. It's not certified
That's not
fresh.
very fresh.
No, it isn't. And honestly, I think it should be rotten.
Yeah, it's, pretty...
To be fair, it's not a bad movie in terms of its filmmaking. It's actually a well-made movie. It's got good performances, but the message... Oh boy, this is the most problematic film I've seen since Wind River.
Hashtag the British did nothing wrong.
Yeah, this movie sure was a romanticized portrayal of British colonialism. Which movie are we talking about, you're asking? Why, Victoria and Abdul, of course. What was interesting about this movie that made our fam want to see it is, of course, it's about the relationship between Queen Victoria and her Indian Muslim servant Abdul Karim. Of course, that would be an interesting premise. What could a movie about that relationship have to say about the colonialist consequences of British's rule over India?
Spoiler, nothing.
Absolutely nothing. This was like a rom-com about Queen Victoria and her servant from India. Except it was a weirdly sexist rom-com.
Yeah.
Weirdly sexless. Obviously, there's no real-life confirmation that the two actually had a sexual relationship. In fact, by all accounts, it was very motherly. She saw Abdul as kind of a son figure, but at the same time, it's very questionable in the movie what the relationship is, because they play upon rom-com cliches.
Yeah.
Like, there is this scene where this German opera singer is, like, telling Victoria of a story about two star-crossed lovers, and she perks up, and, like, we see both Victoria and Abdul in the frame, and it's, like, implying subtext there that, oh, these two are in love. And then there's a scene later on where Abdul is, like, confessing his love to Victoria, almost. It seems that's how the movie is framing it. Again, it's such mixed messages.
Yeah. It's also creepy because, like, the Queen's, like, way fucking older than him.
Way older than him. She's like 60 years older than him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is really odd that they decided to frame this at a romantic light at all, because by all accounts, it was not romantic. It was platonic, and it was like mother and son kind of relationship by the accounts of the journals themselves. What's interesting about the movie, actually, is that this is the second film about Queen Victoria having an affair with a servant, starring Judi Dench as Queen Victoria. In 1997, there was a film called Mrs. Brown, which was about Victoria's relationship with her servant John Brown. And John Brown is mentioned several times in this movie as well. And Abdul is compared to him a lot. It's almost like this movie is an unofficial sequel to that movie that was made 20 years ago. It's very strange.
It's weird.
Especially since, chronologically, it would only be 4 years after John Brown's death that Victoria met Abdul. Well, in real life, it's been 20 years since that movie and this movie. So that was kind of strange. But Judi Dench was great as Queen Victoria. Honestly, her performance elevates this entire movie, because everyone else is
pretty
whatever. Like, even the Indian guy, Indian
guy's performance was pretty meh.
Yeah, he just plays it as an Indian guy.
I think they just picked up with whatever, like, fucking Indian guy they could find in the UK, like, hey, you're Indian, You know, we'll just take you. Yeah.
To be fair, I think this guy has more of a filmography than that.
Yeah, probably.
I'm just saying that Judi Dench's performance is the standout one here. That's what carries this film. I think that is like the only thing that makes this film even remotely watchable is like her performance.
Yeah.
Because she is funny. She is like heartbreaking when she needs to be. She is a great actress and she portrays this role with a lot of the dignity and vulnerability that it requires. She sells the movie.
Mm.
And everyone else, when it's not about her, when she's not on screen, they are not interesting.
Pretty much.
Especially Abdul, who's played by Ali Fazal. He is not very interesting a character.
He is like a cookie cutter as fuck.
Yeah, he's just this nice...
He's the nice,
guy.
Nice, generic Indian guy.
This movie is really not about him. Even though the movie is called Victoria and Abdul, he's barely...
It's more like Victoria and fucking Indian Blob.
Yeah. Like, Victoria has a lot of agency. She does a lot in this movie. But what does Abdul do other than, like...
Be there and look happy.
To listen to her and dance with her? Like, he doesn't do really anything. He doesn't really have an arc of his own. He's just, like... He's an Uncle Tom, basically. He's just there to serve his great British white mistress. They make an Uncle Tom joke in the movie itself, but, like... And I feel like this is something that the movie really misses, is that just because you make a joke that is self-aware doesn't mean that you are actually being self-aware. You know?
Yeah.
Because it plays its trope so straight, even down to misunderstandings, which did not happen. None of the misunderstandings in this movie happened. At all.
Yeah.
By no accounts did, like, any of these events, like the staff planning to protest Queen Victoria knighting Abdul. None of that happened at all. Most of the events in this movie didn't happen. And to be fair, the movie opened up saying, inspired by true events, mostly. What it really means is that,
yeah, we just made a fucking bullshit script.
Exactly.
Here, give us money. Fuck you.
Even the reason Abdul went to England in the first place is completely different. Completely different. He wasn't there to present any mahor or anything. He was, like, chosen to be, like, just a servant and help Victoria address Indian princes at a banquet. Like, he went there to be a servant. And he befriended Queen Victoria after he made curry for her, chicken curry. She liked the chicken curry so much, and that's why she kept him around. And then, you know, they became even bigger friends, and she asked him to teach her Urdu and all that. But, like, in the film, the reason is he's handsome, and he kissed her feet? What?
Yeah, that's, They really want to push those rom-com elements.
Yeah, again, it's this weird fantasy power stuff. Like, I think this movie is aimed towards older women who fantasize about having a young ethnic servant lover boy.
God damn.
It's like...
This is so fucking
It's
dumb.
like older women's power fantasy.
Fuck this film.
The most problematic elements, of course, is this historical whitewashing or like historical sanitizing of British colonialism and the effects it had on India. Because in here it's just presented as, oh, this is a barrier to these two being together. But no, British colonialism was very traumatic and very devastating on India. And it's very offensive that this movie ends saying that, oh, Abdul died 8 years after leaving Queen Victoria, and then in 1947, India gained independence from Britain. And it's like, wow, you spent this entire movie saying, oh, how great this relationship between Victoria and Abdul is, and how sympathetic Victoria is, and then you're ending it saying India got independence from Britain, and like the way you're framing it in this movie is that it is a bad thing. because the relationship between Victoria and Abdul is mother and son. That's like a reflection of England and India familiar relationship, right? And you're trying to imply that those relationships are similar. No, that's the subtext, Lord. That's what's problematic about it.
I'm not arguing it, but you know what this is really a sign of? White privilege.
Yeah, it is a sign of that too, but you can't just reduce it down to that simple a joke, Wee Lord. It's even more problematic, the subtext.
I know.
How it's trying to justify colonialism and the matriarch of that colonial system and its devastating effects on India through this sanitized, romanticized view of this relationship. Painting that, everyone else was racist except for Queen Victoria. Even though in the movie itself, she knew nothing about India, despite being quote-unquote Empress of India. She didn't even know about who was responsible for the uprising.
The uprising thing got me pissed off because they're like, the Indians killed all the British people. You fucking killed like a ton of them. You enslaved them. Basically. What are you expecting? We killed some of your soldiers. Well, fuck you. You were the guys who enslaved us. Of course we're gonna kill you.
Yeah.
You actually expect us to have sympathy for you? Fuck you.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just British people being fucking assholes.
And so easy was she willing to turn on him when she found out that Muslims were the ones who were involved in the riot. Like, yeah, maybe it was Muslims who were rioting, but not all Muslims rioted, right? Not all. You can't lump an entire group of people into being at fault for something. Clearly, he was not involved in that. Clearly.
Yeah, I mean...
In this film, Abdul also really lies about a lot of weird things and that's just glossed over. But, there's no reason for him to do that. In real life, Abdul was educated. Abdul was the son of a hospital assistant. He had a good education. He had qualifications enough. He didn't really need to lie about anything.
Basically, yeah. I mean...
There were no need for misunderstanding.
They pretty much rewrote this to just be a power fantasy.
Yeah.
And kind of an offensive power fantasy.
Yeah, again, it sanitizes and romanticizes British colonialism.
Which I guess is made by British people, and they don't want to admit that they did anything wrong.
I mean, it's not really made by British people, though.
Isn't it a BBC production?
Oh. Yeah, it is BBC. My mistake. Yeah, it's distributed by Universal Pictures in the UK. Yeah, okay, so it is. Yeah, I guess, again, this is like if you made a film about Thomas Jefferson and his relationship with a black slave. And his affair with one of his black slaves.
Or Andrew Jackson of the Native Americans.
Yeah, this is exactly analogous to that. You're making a love story out of a very problematic and historically damaging thing that happened. Oh, Pocahontas, that's an obvious comparison.
Like literally, it just comes off as England did nothing wrong. India deserved to be, taken over. It was a good thing.
The movie accepts it as a fact that, India was ruled by the British. That was the way things were. Weren't they great? No, they weren't great. No. They have this one straw man who's saying, fuck you, British people. You are enslaving us. But he's presented as a comic relief character.
And then
no one takes him seriously. Off. And then they just kill him off. So it's like he's portrayed in the wrong. He only has a moment of sympathy when he's saying, I hope that Abdul and Victoria, continue to cause problems for you. But the way the movie frames that is because Victoria's servants, inner circle people are trying to interfere with their relationship, and only then is Muhammad saying, fuck you guys. They should leave them be. But it's not about the colonialism at that point, it's just about the relationship.
Yeah.
So bad. So bad. So much bad subtext. It didn't make me as mad as Wind River. Because Wind River is like...
Wind River is just white privilege at its core.
Straight male power fantasy with the Native Americans as an expense.
This movie
and Wind River, and what really pissed me off about Wind River was that it was trying to say it had a message.
Oh, it was trying to like have that all like
saying
Native American women aren't reported missing and that this is an issue.
Yeah, it was trying to say that it had a deeper message, but like the way it presented everything was just so
Wind River
problematic.
Wind River is a generic revenge story with white power fantasy.
Yeah. Native Americans can't protect themselves. They can't avenge their own
Yes, the white man only knows...
The white man who has to save the day.
The white man is the only one who knows the land well enough.
F off. Man, yeah, movies like this. Yeah. Again, I understand that the intentions behind this movie were harmless. But when you completely change the actual story, and you completely remove details that, would have been fine enough to present in this movie. Like, why couldn't Queen Victoria have liked Abdul after eating chicken curry he made, right? That was the reason.
Honestly,
why would you need to change it to her finding him handsome and then him kissing her feet and all this weird power fantasy?
Said because chicken curry would be too ethnic for American and British audiences. I don't know.
So whitewashed. So laid down to just not offend anybody.
What's a chicken curry? I only eat steak.
I mean, they make a point of mentioning Indian foods, but do we actually ever see Victoria eat them? No. She never even eats a mango because the mango is rotten.
Yeah.
Well, that's so weird. What? Were they scared of having her eat Indian food? Eating weird food? Did they think that the old white women watching this would get offended?
I wonder, like, if you showed this to an Indian that lives in the UK, because there are a lot of Indians in the UK, how they would react to this movie. I'm
sure that they would react the same way our family did, thinking that, oh wow, that was bullshit.
Yeah, it's just like, huh.
Our dad was like laughing at how bad the movie was.
It's like, fuck, this is bad.
Yeah. Like, so this movie was completely made up. It's not reflective of the true story at all. It barely resembles the real thing. Some events are sorta happened in real life. Most of them didn't. Most of it is just made up rom-com bullshit, though. Yep. Victoria and Abdul is definitely not a good movie. It's a very problematic movie, too, and that is why you shouldn't watch it.
White privilege, white privilege, white privilege, white privilege.
No. We're gonna move on to the next thing now.
White privilege.